Okay, so let's just jump right into it. That horrible sinking feeling when you realize you've been hacked. Your accounts, your money, your private data, it's just chaos. But what you do in those first few minutes can honestly change everything.
So what really happens after those digital alarm bells go off? You know, it can feel like you've been dropped into this black hole of confusing tech terms and bureaucratic nightmares. But I promise you, there is a way through it, and we're going to walk that path together.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? It feels incredibly isolating, but you are not alone in this. Our goal here is to give you a super clear, step-by-step roadmap from that initial shock all the way to finding real support and recovery.
First things first, the incident itself. You've got to start thinking about your computer or your phone as a digital crime scene. Seriously. And just like any other crime scene, the #1 priority is to preserve the evidence. And get this advice comes straight from a police computer forensics manual. Notice how the most important first steps are all about what not to do? It's exactly like a physical crime scene. Don't touch a thing. A single click could be like wiping away fingerprints. And that last step is so critical. If that computer is on, you have to fight the urge to shut it down the normal way.
So why pull the plug? I know, it feels totally wrong, right? But it's actually a brilliant forensic move. See, a sudden power cut stops any malicious programs from running a last-minute cleanup script that could wipe out crucial evidence. It also freezes all those temporary files that usually get deleted during a normal shutdown. It's literally about freezing the crime scene in time.
Okay, so the scene is preserved. Now what? Let's move on to the next phase, documenting the evidence. This is where you actually get to start taking back a little bit of control.
The safety net project just hits the nail on the head here. It's so easy to feel lost, wondering what even counts as useful evidence. You might have saved a few things, but these guidelines are all about making your documentation rock solid for an investigation.
So let's break down your options. Screenshots are your go-to. But just a heads up, some apps like Snapchat will actually tell the other person you've taken one. For things that are moving or don't fit on one screen, a screen recording is perfect. And what if an app blocks screenshots completely? Easy. Just grab another phone and take a picture of the screen. It's a simple but really effective workaround. Lastly, you've got archiving sites, which can preserve a whole web page. But be careful here, because those copies can be almost impossible to scrub from the internet later.
All right, so you've preserved the scene, you've documented the evidence. Now it's time to make it official and actually report the crime. Just knowing where to go is half the battle. In the US, your main stop is the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3. If you're in Canada, you'll go to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. For our friends in Australia and New Zealand, ID Care is a fantastic resource. And then there's the world of finance, where firms are urged by FINRA to report to the FBI and the SEC.
Okay, but we all know what happens next, right? The paperwork. And these official forms can be pretty intimidating. The IC3 form, for example, asks for some very specific details, especially if cryptocurrency is involved. So let's just quickly translate some of that jargon.
First up, you're going to see recipient wallet address. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. Think of it like a bank account number for crypto. It's just that unique string of letters and numbers that identifies the wallet where your money was sent. Next, you'll see transaction ID or hash. This is basically the digital receipt for your transaction on the blockchain. It's way longer than a wallet address, and it's the unique, undeniable proof that the transaction actually happened. Giving this to investigators is absolutely crucial. So, you've done your part. You've filed the report. What happens now? Let's pull back the curtain and see what an investigation actually looks like on the inside.
So how do law enforcement officers even get access to a device? Well, there are two main ways. One is a search warrant, which they can only get with probable cause and has really strict limits. The other is a consent search, where you give them written permission to take your device to a forensics lab for analysis.
And what actually goes on in that lab? Well, it's this super careful three-step dance. First, they image the device, which means making an exact bit-for-bit copy of it. Then, and this is key, all of the analysis, all the digging, is done only on that copy. This means the original device, the actual evidence, is never touched. It's preserved perfectly and put back into secure storage.
Now let's do a quick reality check on international cases. We've all seen the movies where Interpol agents in cool suits swoop in and make arrests anywhere in the world. Yeah, that's a total myth. Interpol is incredibly important for helping police forces talk to each other, but they have zero arrest powers. Only the local cops in a specific country can actually make an arrest.
Okay, so while that whole investigation is slowly ticking along, your own recovery can start right now. So let's talk about the final and honestly probably the most important stage of all, finding support.
Because recovery is so much more than just the criminal case. It's about healing from that feeling of violation and getting the emotional, the legal, and the practical support you need to actually move on with your life.
And often, the very first step is just talking to someone. There are so many amazing, free, and completely confidential hotlines that are available 24/7. Whether it's the 988 Crisis Lifeline for general distress or a specialized helpline like the one from the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative for image-based abuse, there is someone waiting to listen right now.
Now, beyond that immediate crisis, you've got the legal aftermath, which can feel like a tangled mess. But here's the really good news. There is a huge network of legal pros out there who volunteer their time for free. It's called pro bono, to help victims figure it all out.
And when I say huge, I mean it. Trust Law, for example, is the biggest in the world, with over 120,000 lawyers in its network. In Australia, Justice Connect has a portal with more than 10,000 lawyers ready to help. There are even super specialized projects, like the one from K&L Gates, that focus specifically on this stuff. The bottom line is, you do not have to navigate this legal maze by yourself.
So let's just boil it all down. What's the game plan? 1. Preserve the digital crime scene. 2. Document absolutely everything you can. 3. Report it to the right people. And 4, most importantly, find your support network. Remember, you are not alone in this.
You know, having this roadmap is powerful, but seeing all these steps laid out, from forensics to legal aid, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What do you think is the single biggest challenge that victims of cybercrime still face, even with all this help available? It's something to think about.